quarantine, Little Survivor, and Mvula, and their confrontation and then later truce around an impala kill. And I believe that Brent is out with Gert and he's heading across to see if those two aren't still hanging about. Brent has managed to make his way into that incredibly tricky position. Let's go and find out what's happening with that impala kill.
Welcome to the Sunrise Safari, and there we have a tree climbing impala. Now, of course, the impala didn't climb the tree itself, and fortunately for us, the leopards have hoisted. Now, which leopard hoisted, Mvula or Sindile? That remains to be, or I think that's a question we'll never know the answer to. So I'm not sure whether Sindile is still here, but Mvula is, and he's lying on the ground right next to us. So here we go, a leopard to start the Sunrise Safari. He keeps looking into the little river system below him, so I wonder if young Sindile isn't still close at hand. Now, if we look on his neck, you can see there's some dirt sticking to certain spots. Now, to me, those look like injuries, and the dirt sticking to the blood, whether that's from a fight with Sindile or the fight he had with Djuma a few days ago. It's difficult to say. They don't look as fresh as if they happened last night or yesterday. But also I think there's sort of a gentleman's agreement, or not really a gentleman's agreement. A young male who's not quite ready to fight and an old male who's tired of fighting. So they've almost decided to share, which is very unusual behavior. And I think this type of stuff probably happens more often than we think out here in the African bush. Now, from where we are, we can't really move too much further forward without disturbing Mvula to check if young... I think I heard him. Now, just come back to the Mvula here quickly. I heard something in the drainage line. His ears picked up. So just literally directly into that thicket there. I think young Sindile is down in the bottom there somewhere. Hopefully he makes an appearance. But this is fascinating behavior. Very steep little section there. Oh, I can't see from where I am. Now, of course, there is always a possibility that Mvula might be young Sindile's father. I think it's unlikely, though, from where most of Shadow's range is. I think it's more than likely Tingana, or even possibly Anderson, or a male, I've forgotten his name now, that used to be in the west. T, it begins with a T. I want to say Tumbela, but Tumbela is a leopard I know from a long time ago. We're going to sit here and see how this plays out. Very, very exciting. And of course, I think I might have forgot to mention, my name's Brent. I've got Gert on camera, and this is a live African safari. We've got a leopard sitting 6 foot from us in the middle of the African bush. We're on Djuma Private Game Reserve. And what a way to start the Sunrise Safari. Now, Mvula has decided to have a snooze. So he's sleeping flat cat next to us. And that shows you how confident and comfortable these leopards are in our presence. Look at that. Stretched out, not a care or worry in the world. Well, that would be a lie. He is quite worried. He is still quite jumpy, especially after his run-in with Djuma, the ghost from the north, last week. And having another leopard present is always going to make him a bit jumpy. So any little sound and stuff, he does lift his head quite quickly. There's still a fair amount of meat left on that carcass. It was an adult male impala. And you can see his head hanging below the branch there, and make out the horns. Still quite a bit of the back legs left, and maybe the neck. So not too much, especially not too much for two male leopards, a growing boy and a male leopard who's seen better times, Mr. Mvula. Now I'm hoping that he climbs the tree, or the other leopard climbs the tree. And there we go. If we go straight down his spine, he's got a very distinct... Oh. See, he's very alert. I wonder... See how his ears are constantly moving? Those ears, very alert. I'm just trying to look down into the river system to see if young Sindile might make an appearance. You can see that dawn starting to break. The sun hasn't quite come across our western horizon yet. So remember, you can ask us questions about what's happening here in the bush. You can do that by using the hashtag SafariLive, or send us an email, questions@WildEarthTV. Oh, back to snoozing. So while we hang around here, see what happens, what plays out with Mvula and possibly young Sindile, let's go back to Jamie and see how her tracking of lions is going.
Well, at present, I haven't got any tracks of lions, and I'm just thinking perhaps with the cold, the sound is travelling a little bit further than it might on a warm summer's morning. I'm going to do one more loop, but then after that I'm actually going to leave the area. I think that the guys will probably end up finding the lions at some point this morning, because the calls are absolutely everywhere. They've been calling from all around Djuma. Now I can guarantee at some point they're going to find some lions, and I really want to get across to Cheetah Plains to follow up on reports that there are cheetah tracks coming south into that area. I want to go see if we can't help the guys find them. But we'll do one more looping check. This is the coldest place on Djuma, and we're about to go through it. My fingers are now numb. No, they're not actually, they're sore. I don't know how Jean-Andre is feeling, having to operate the camera. At least I don't have to do anything fiddly or technical, because I'm not sure I'd be able to. Ooh, and here we go, into the dip. Ouch. It's sort of eye-wateringly cold. They say that it is 9 degrees, which is 49 in Fahrenheit. I can tell you that in this dip it's probably about 5 degrees colder than that. And as South Africans, we are most definitely not built for enduring cold. Well, I can only speak for myself. I'll tell you that I'm a wuss when it comes to the cold. So is Brent, so is Brian. Chandra is a bit more resilient in that sense, although he's got a blanket, several jackets and several gloves. Woo! Cold. All of these low-lying drainage lines or river systems where all the cold air sinks into, and we find ourselves freezing. Whew. Trying to work out a way I could put one hand underneath my jacket where the hot water bottle is. Okay, lions were calling from sort of this direction. I haven't picked up any tracks. As I said, I'm not going to focus too much on searching for them. I can almost guarantee that with Taxon and Aubrey out and Ephraim on his way, and Brent around the area, they will be found, unless they decide to cross out. Cold, 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 cold. Oof. I think Brent had the right idea going back and checking on a static sighting. And as you can see, by the way, my beanie still hasn't emerged. Still hasn't revealed itself. I have a funny feeling that when Brent clears out the car today, perhaps it will turn up. Even though he promises me it's not in there. We'll see. Yesterday we of course had the lions being thoroughly active, trying to chase buffalo. The females even ended up chasing a giraffe at the end of the sunset safari yesterday. However, Gary, with an inimitable sense of humor, would like to know if they're called lions because they're always lying around. I don't know, Gary. Perhaps you might want to, perhaps we could suggest it to them when we next see them. I wonder if they're lying around or if they are somewhere in the general vicinity. I think they're on the move, to be 100% honest with you, contrary to their general state of being. Last night, by the way, we had some really interesting incidents with elephants. As the drought continues, they've been pushing to feed around because what happens around camps is, even if it's not a watered camp, you've still got water pipelines and so on that very often leak out a little bit more water through. I'll continue the story later. Our signal's not great. Let's send you back to Brent.
So you can see not much has changed here in the position around this impala kill. Mvula is still sleeping quite heavily, and I said if we move any further forward we might disturb him, so just playing a bit of the patience game at the moment, and we are hoping for young Sindile to make an appearance. It'll be very interesting if he tries to climb the tree to watch Mvula's reaction. Of course, I've heard all about what was happening from Jamie, but it's always better to watch it for oneself. And that is one of the reasons we have two vehicles. And it gives you guys the chance to bounce between the two of us and see all the fantastic things that are happening here in the African bush on Safari Live. Now, we've seen lots of lions and leopards recently, so hopefully Jamie has some cheetah luck down on Cheetah Plains. Now, if we look at Mvula's back, there it is. And if you come straight off his tail, it almost looks like he's got a little landing strip. Very, very equidistant spot pattern there. One of his diagnostic features. Margaret's wondering, did Mvula get enough to eat? He doesn't look that full. I think, Margaret, it's just the way he's lying. He does look like he's got quite a full belly. So I think it's just because he's lying on his side. He's also lying at a slight angle, that it doesn't look like he's that full. But I think He has had quite a bit to eat. Now, Herbert mentioned he saw some quite fresh, big scratch marks on him, and I think that's when he was sitting up the mud or dirt that was stuck to his neck was from the fight. I don't think it was from fighting with Sindile, or could have been, you never know, but I think it was more likely from his argument with Djuma last week. Now, he's doing quite well, and I said it's not unusual for a male leopard to, after he's lost his territory, to survive for a couple of years afterwards. They tend to hang around their own old home range for a while before, right towards the end, becoming extremely nomadic. Sorry guys, it's got to be on the game drive radio. Firm tax. Five is Lala on the western bank near the Timbuti tree. Over, make your way. As you know, this is quite a difficult area. So I'm going to have to maneuver just now to make some space for tax. We won't leave, but we might not have the best visual. And he is just sleeping at the moment. I'm really hoping that young Sindile is still close by in the drainage line. So I might maneuver a little bit to see if we can have a look into the little river system here to see if we can see young Sindile. Now, James is wondering, apart from holding on to this meal, since none of these leopards hold territory, what would be the benefit of Mvula fighting Sindile? Well, firstly, I think a lot of it's got to do with instinct, but the benefit is the meal. Mvula's been struggling to keep fat over the last while, and I've heard from the guys where he's been in Sibambili, he's been eating scrub hares and tortoises, so he is struggling, probably not because his hunting is too badly affected, possibly because every time he does get a meal, he's chased off it by other dominant males in the area. So for him, a big meal like this is definitely worth the fight. It'll extend his chances of survival drastically. Now, as I said, we've got to move now, so it's going to bash and crash a bit. I'm going to try see, I can hear Taxon coming in, so I do need to make space so he can also see the leopard. And I want to see if young Sindile is not in the river down there. And so while we try find out if young Sindile is here, let's go back to Jamie and see how she's doing.
Oh, while Brent repositions and sees if whether or not he can get a view of our second male at the kill site, we're going to move on. I'm not going to linger too long in searching for these lions. As I said, I want to start making my way across to Cheetah Plains, and I've heard an interesting report from our southern boundary, so we're going to go along via there, see what's happening, and then continue our search on Cheetah Plains, just because it's been such a long time since I say such a long time, it's probably been about 3 days, but it feels like a long time since we last went east and investigated that part of our traverse area. The only disadvantage, of course, is that it means driving relatively quickly along the southern boundary, and it can be incredibly chilly. Let's stop for one moment if this Oriole will cooperate. Can you see it sitting there? Got it, thank you. You black-headed Oriole. And it just flew out right in front of my face. And there he goes. I always think of Sam whenever I see black-headed orioles. They were his favorite bird. Also gives us a nice opportunity to just sit and listen for any sounds of lions on our way. Definitely one of the most striking birds that we get out here. And somewhere, if we listen closely, there is a woodpecker furiously at work. Can hear it off somewhere in that over there. Alright, let's go forward a bit. There's some very fluffed up looking Inyala in front of me, shivering in the cold. Well, there were some very fluffed up Inyala in front of me, shivering in the cold. I don't know where they went. Oh, there they are. Hello, guys. A little bit chilly this morning. They're definitely looking a very deep red colour. This is about as fluffy as a female Inyala will get. Trying to insulate themselves against the morning chill. And on this beautiful winter's morning, it's totally still, and the birds are making a racket around us. Oh. Thought I just heard a lion.
I think it was my stomach.
Was it your stomach, Chandra? Aha! Okay, well at least it wasn't my stomach this time. I thought it was the most half-hearted lion roar I'd ever heard. But apparently not. Apparently just Chandra's stomach. Not the first time that mistake's ever been made. Got very hopeful there for a second, Chandra.
Sorry.
It's okay. Let's carry on. Make our way to the eastern boundary. I was busy telling the story about the elephants from last night. When Brent and myself left the main camp, left DRC, they were everywhere, trying to feed, and we sent a warning through to say, don't forget to shut the gate, because otherwise they're going to walk into the car park and pull down the tree on top of all of the cars there. That was duly done. Then I realized that Brent had forgotten, or Brent realized he'd forgotten something, and I went racing back to the DRC, had to park right up against the gate to try and sneak in. And then they closed the gate behind us, off we went back home, arrived this morning, and the elephants had just decided that this puny human gate was not something that was going to keep them from the tree that they wanted, and so they ploughed through the gate and into the car park anyway. Fortunately, the cars managed to escape any major damage. I'm not quite sure how, although I think that poor Jerry, whose room was right outside the tree that they were so intent on feeding upon, I'm not entirely sure exactly how much sleep she managed last night. But yes, as the drought as the dry season combined with the drought slowly continues, animals are becoming more and more determined to get to whatever food they can find, even if that means pushing through a gate. It does mean that we're all being especially vigilant whenever we're walking out in the dark, because there's nothing like a surprise big grey shape looming out of the darkness in front of you to really kickstart your adrenaline system first thing in the morning. I'm sort of putting off this Cheetah Plains journey because I know it's going to be freezing. But it would be very, very nice to go and see some cheetah. We've been spoiled with leopard and lion sightings. Time for us to add cheetah to the list. while we journey across to Cheetah Plains in the crisp winter's morning. Let's go back across, see whether Brent has managed to get you a different view of Mvula.
A slightly different view of Mvula, but here we can see his belly's not so. Oh, I think your jacket got there. There we go. You can see he is quite full. He has eaten enough, and hopefully he's going to feed again. Now, if we come back across over my shoulder in the river system through that little bush there, we can just make out Sindile, fast asleep as well, so lying below, about equidistant from the kill itself in the tree. So I wonder which leopard's going to climb to feed first. Now if we come out again and we look onto the ground in front of me there, there's some white on the ground. And just through the bush there, it's just behind the bush for you guys, but there's a bunch of impala fluff on the ground, and those of you who've been watching for a long time will have watched leopards, how they pluck the carcass of the hare. Now if we look at the carcass itself, which we're a bit closer to, we can actually see where the fur's been plucked. We as far up as we can go. So if we zoom maybe a little bit more, just I'll try and stop there. You can just see on his rump that there's a lot of fur that's been plucked there by the leopards. Now, of course, they do consume a lot of fur of the animals they eat, but then not on purpose by any means, by accident. They prefer to have a hairless meal, and it causes them to have quite impressive fur balls, and also in their dung you'll find a lot of fur of what they've been feeding off. So we are now perfectly positioned between two male leopards. Who is going to be the first to feed? That is the question. Now remember, we're on a live African safari, and you can ask us questions about what's going on, although at the moment the leopards are very much flat cats sleeping, but they do have a kill in the tree next to us. And remember, mailer or hashtag Safari Live if you're a tweeter. Oh, let's have another look at Mr. Mvula, who is lying very comfortably. Sandy in Tennessee says there seems to be a lot of other male leopard activity in Tingana's territory. When was the last confirmed sighting of Tingana? I think it was yesterday, just to the west of Arathusa, just off our traverse. So he could be on his way in this direction. Now also, this area is actually right on the boundary between Tingana and Djuma. So, very, very interesting. There we go. There's the kill. And the sun is peeking up through over the western horizon. So we could get some lovely light shortly. And I will be quite happy because we might start warming up slightly because it is very chilly. And we're sitting down low in a little river system where it's even colder. So, hopefully, we're going to get some... there we go. Who was asking about Tingana? Sandy. Tingana's just been found on the Cheetah Plains driveway, so maybe Jamie will get there before he crosses into Torchwood. So he is on his way up this area. Now, looking at the kill, hopefully, for these two, they'll be finished before Mr. Tingana gets here, but he can walk. So there's a strong possibility he could even be in this area by the sunset safari. So interesting times ahead. Now, I wonder whether they didn't put this kill up in the tree due to the fact there were a lot of lions around this area this morning, and I even heard lions calling just to the north of here. Oh, unfortunately, Tingana crossed straight over the Cheetah Plains driveway into Torchwood before Jamie was able to get there. So, unfortunately, Sandy, we're not going to see him this morning, but we do know where he is, and he is on his way north. So, it's going to be a very exciting sunset safari to see what happens there. Oh, eyes are up. Listen, lions. Close to us as well. It sounds like maybe Gallagher, Shortcut, Voyet and Teller. No, a bit further north. Aubrey's. Aubrey Sandy Patch. Maybe. I don't know if you guys heard those lions. So the lions almost due west of us. You're going to go look, Tax? Where are Aubrey's? Yeah. They were calling this side and south this morning. All over the place, lions. So there we go. We're going to sit and see what happens with these leopards. Tax is actually going to go see if he can find those roaring lions. So that's why it's important to be on the Game Drive channels. Oh, here we go. Are we going to go climb a tree, Mr. Mvula? Or are we just lifting our head to make sure young Sindile is still sleeping in the same place? Oh, looking up at the carcass. If you hear a few knocks about, it's just me opening my camera case. Hollows is wondering, how do we ID the different leopards due to their spots? Now, if we look at his face there, we get to know quite a lot of these leopards very well, so that makes it a little bit easier. Oh, excuse me. We will look at its spot pattern. Now, each individual leopard has a very unique spot pattern. I'm just going to get a photo of it. I'm going to zoom a bit more than the camera. Come on, turn your face this way, Mr. Mvula. I'll get one of the right hand side. Okay, I'm just going to wait for him to turn. I think he might. He's looking intently where young Sindile is still fast asleep below me. Is he contemplating a trip up the tree? That is the next question. I think he might be. Nope. Yeah, well, anyway, at least it gives me another chance to get the spot pattern. Okay. Now, here we go, Hollows. I've got. So, the easiest way and the most unique spot pattern we find on a lot of leopards, and the one that is used for ID most often, is that line of spots just above the last line of whiskers. So there we go, you see them there. So here's a 1, 2, 3, 4 on the right, and then where's the picture of him lying down? There we go. 1, 2, 3 on the left. So he's a 4-3 leopard, is how we would describe him. Oh, that's actually quite a nice photo. And I was just looking to get spot patterns. Oh, his head's up. Now, remember to share your screenshots with us on the Facebook Safari Live page, or you can pop it on any of the many Facebook fan groups we have, or on Twitter with the hashtag Safari Live. Now, even though Mvula is quite an old male, you can see those tatty ears, he is still a really beautiful boy. He's got incredible eyes. and boof, back to sleep. Now, Gen B is wondering if the fact that his ears are so tattered, would it affect his hearing? Not at all, Jen. Maybe slightly, but nothing that would really make a big difference. Oh, he's tired kitty. And the other kitty is also a very tired kitty. Now, we are going to get some lovely light on Mr. Mvula shortly. Now, look at his left eye. Sorry, his right eye. No, left eye. The one closest to the ground. The right eye. You can see that little membrane. Oh, he's closed his eyes now. Coming across the little protective membrane that you can sometimes see in leopards. Oh, it's tired kitty. Oh, Sindile has lifted his head, but again, we can't really see him through the bush, and I can't really move too much further forward without disappearing into that river. But his head is still up. Oh, is he going to put his head down again? I'll just move my shoulder so you can see over it. Ah, there you go. And head down again. And he's a tired kitty. And you're going to just make out his head through the baby jackalberry. No, it's a guarri bush, sorry, it's not a baby jackalberry. So, no one's feeding at the moment. But I am hoping that one of them feeds shortly. Now, Tax has left. I'm going to just scoot up a little bit because, oh, Mvula's up. Let's just wait a second. Oh, you can see that lovely early morning light creeping through. So a lot of people have different ways of recognizing our leopards. They look at different spot patterns, but the sort of recognized way that the scientific community identifies leopard is from those spots just above the last line of whiskers. Looks like he's trying to get comfortable with that big belly of his. Now, as I said, we're right on the boundary between Tingana's territory and Djuma's territory. So that would explain why he's so nervous looking up, and he has had a run-in with Djuma not far from here recently. Now, Jamie has managed to get all the way down to Cheetah Plains, so let's see what update she's got for us from that part of the world.
We actually haven't managed to get all the way to Cheetah Plains. We're on the driveway now. And just by the way, I did hear that update about Tingana a little bit earlier. However, when I heard it, he was in the process of crossing into Torchwood. So he'd already disappeared off our traverse area. Now what I mean by that, for new viewers, my lips are numb and they don't want to enunciate anything. For new viewers, Tingana is a dominant male leopard. He's absolutely enormous. But we have certain areas that we can drive and certain areas that we can't drive on. And Torchwood is one of those areas. So unfortunately, there's no way we could have got there in time. He was already in the process of crossing when we were still close to quarantine clearings. Now, I've just been thinking, driving along and cataloguing all the different smells. I've decided that the next step for these live safaris is a huge scratch and sniff book that you can order. And basically we'll tell you what page to turn to whenever we're experiencing a nice or a type of smell. We've already given you the temperature updates, but you can have the petrichor page on page 1, the smell after the rain, and then maybe page 2 will be fresh elephant dung, page 3 waterbuck, 4 wild dog, and then you get to the slightly more unpleasant ones. And you can always, I suppose, choose whether or not you scratch and sniff the lion dung, the lion scat, or you'll have to have different scratch and sniff categories for things like day-old buffalo, day-old buffalo, and 3-day-old buffalo in 40-degree heat, and so on. But I feel as though that's one of the final steps in our all-over safari experience. You've already got a live interactive safari experience. Scratch and sniff is most definitely, in my mind, the next step. Just think of all the smells. There you could have the flowers, the turpentine grass. You'd end up with about a 200-page book of different senses, or different senses of smell that you could experience. Sorry guys, my game drive channel's been very busy this morning, just listening to updates around there. We are about to hit the driveway and the dip of Cheetah Plains, so we're not yet out of the bad signal regions. I've been looking for an animal to keep us distracted with, but unfortunately, having just had Tingana walk through along this Cheetah Plains driveway, it seems as though most of the animals are still in hiding, thanks to his approach. So we are going to go into the dip relatively soon. Here we go, our Cheetah Plains Lodge sign, and Net's over there, and Coral over there, Cheetah Plains over here. Off we go. We'll send you back to Brent before we disappear.
So we're still sitting here, absolutely no change, except that the sun's coming through, and hopefully it will help thaw our bones. Mvula still sleeping to the left. Sindile still sleeping down in the drainage system. Oh, sorry, my shoulder. A little bit to there we go. It looked like he was dreaming. I saw his ears and mouth moving. There we go. So this is very interesting. I mean, I haven't seen any sign of aggression. I've seen some wariness on both parties looking at each other, but no sign of aggression yet. Sorry, I keep almost falling down. So we're sitting about 20-25 degrees. So I keep sliding forward. So if I end up rolling over the bonnet, don't mind. But I'm just going to look at the lovely light coming through now. Now, curious one's wondering, can a leopard sneak up on another leopard easily? Sometimes, yes. I mean, I have seen a female leopard sneak up on another female leopard and attack her savagely. And it was a young female, and she wandered into the next female over territory and got a really, really severe beating. She actually burst one of the blood vessels in her eye and became blind in that eye, and that was the last time I ever saw that young leopard. So it does happen from time to time. But normally, when a leopard sneaks up on another leopard, the leopard's distracted, mating, feeding, or there's strong winds around. But it isn't that common. Normally they'll see each other and manage to avoid each other. Most animals out here will try avoid conflict at all costs, and a lot of posturing normally goes a long way in defeating your enemy. But in those there is always those occasions where violence does happen, and when it does happen, it is quite brutal and quite savage. Come on, guys, get hungry. It's supposed to be nice and cool. You don't want to be eating up there when it's hot. You can see the sun is directly in front of us. Now, Julie's wondering, do leopards ever get cold and make nests, or they're always lying out in the open? They do get cold, but they never make a nest as such. They'll just curl up. And the bigger problem for leopards is getting hot. So they get hot very easily, and especially with full bellies, digestion causes energy, causes heat. So they're probably very much enjoying this cold morning with their full bellies, as they snooze, waiting for their stomachs to digest enough that they can go start feeding again. Now the sun's popping up. We're starting to get the dawn chorus. You can hear white-browed scrub robin. And what else can we hear? There's wood hoopoes in the distance. And I'm trying to listen to what else I can hear. What else can we hear? Oriole, black-headed oriole. I think you saw one with Jamie a little earlier. Starlings. Bulldozers. Oh, bulldozers. My favorite sound in the morning. Blue butterfrog is wondering if one of the leopards got up, would the other immediately move to block it? Now, that is a question I can't answer till one of them gets up. So maybe, maybe not. We're going to have to wait and see. And that's the exciting thing about spending so much time with these big cats, is they could show and display behavior that has never been recorded, or if it has, it's very, very rare. And we've been fortunate enough to see quite a lot of that behavior, specifically with young Sindile. Very unique story. He was born to Shadow, who is the dominant female around Arathusa and the far western reaches of Djuma. And just at about a year old, he caught a rabid dog. We were actually there and we saw it. It was quite disturbing. And, well, we didn't know the dog was rabid at the time, so we chased him off the carcass. And then the dog was destroyed. And then it was sent to Nat.Geo, which is the big veterinary, how would you describe Nat.Geo? It's part of the University of Pretoria, but it's basically one of the most massive veterinary departments in the world. And they do lots of stuff on wildlife and domestic animals. And the brain was tested positive for rabies. Then young Sindile was darted and put into quarantine and given rabies shots to make sure he didn't contract it. There was no ways we could leave him out here, because if he did become positive for rabies, he's a massive danger to all the animals around. And so he then went into quarantine for seven, nearly 8 months, and then he was re-released back into the wild. And he's picked up another nickname, the Wanderer. Now he's wandered big distances up and down and around, and we were lucky enough to see him probably one of the first times he saw his mom. So when he left his mom at about a year, she still would have been looking after him, but in the time he was away, she mated and gave birth to another set of cubs. She lost the male cub, but she still got the female cub. And she was calling for the cub, and he thought, well, mom must be calling for me. Ow, ow. And then mom wasn't calling for him, absolutely beat the daylights out of him, trying to protect her new cub, because he would have been a massive threat to that new cub. He might kill it. But his mom managed to keep him away from the cub. And then he went wandering again, and He's wandered all the way into Kruger Park, down to Mala Mala, onto the Sand River, and now he's moved back up into the north. He's a little bit further to the east of his mom's territory. His mom's territory is behind us, about where we heard those lions roaring. And, I mean, we got to see that behavior, and that's probably never been recorded because it's such an unusual circumstance of a young male leaving and then coming back. And now we see him with a male that's probably not his dad, and they're sharing an impala carcass. So really, really fascinating stuff. And it's incredible. The more you watch leopards, the less you realize you know for sure, and things can always change, and that's the amazing thing about the bush. But while we wait here to see what happens next, let's go to Jamie, who's on Cheetah Plains, deep in the east, for an update.
Well, all is spectacularly quiet here on Cheetah Plains. I saw one impala really far away, looking very cold. We've arrived at 3 in a row pan in the hope that perhaps some animals are on their way for an early morning drink before we head across to the open area to see whether or not we can follow up on those tracks of cheetah that apparently crossed south. 3 in a row pan has sort of become 2 in a row pan though. Ah, it's the hornbill. He combined with elephant dung here to look very strange. Here we go. I thought we had some kind of bizarre bird in front of us, or at least an unexpected one, but it turned out to just be a hornbill plucking through elephant dung. Yesterday, Chat and I watched a seriously fierce hornbill fight between 2 males. They grabbed each other by the bills and were sort of pushing each other around. It was probably the most violent hornbill fight I've ever seen, actually. All closely watched by a third onlooker. I always find it entertaining to just sit and watch them run for a moment. But let us carry on, see if anything's at the pan, whether there's any sign of life here. And then, as I said, we're heading to the open area. And Shamson, you've said an ostrich would be nice, or even better, a cheetah chasing an ostrich. Promise you, one day we're going to be able to film that. We're going to be able to film cheetah chasing something across the open plain, and there's a good chance it could be an ostrich. And that, I think, would be unbelievable to witness. I've been fortunate enough to see cheetah hunting ostrich before in the Kalahari, and it is quite a spectacle. Oh, shame, little steenbokkie. It's a bit difficult for you to get to drink, isn't it? If I go any closer, he's going to disappear. In fact, he or she is already thinking of disappearing. Oh, there's 2. There's 2 of them together. And in fact, I think it might even be mom and baby. That little one that you're looking at now looks much smaller than the adult off to the right. Oh, cute, yes. It is definitely mom and baby. Little one is very, very thirsty, but trying to figure out a way to get to the water. Oh, cute. Baby steenbok. They are definitely one of the cutest antelope to see. Stopping for a little bit of a nibble on the edge of 3 in a row pan. Its ears are absurdly big compared to its body. There's Mom coming to double check on her little one. I actually think it might be a little male. I thought I saw horns starting to come up. You can see the size difference now that they're together. And I mean, steenbok don't have small ears to start with, but this one's look absolutely enormous. Yeah, I'm sure, maybe I'm imagining it, but I think I see horns. Hello, little one, with your enormous ears. You are very cute. Oh, Gave Mom a bit of a fright there. This is such a beautiful steenbok sighting. So often we just see their disappearing rumps as they race off away from us. It's really nice to see them relaxed and feeding on the opposite side of the pan. I wonder if they're going to try and brave the mud to go and have a drink. It's going to be very, very sticky for them. They probably don't want to risk getting bogged down, and it does happen. Antelope do get stuck in the muddy remains of watering holes. Yes, it is a little male. Sure, those are tiny, tiny horns that are starting to poke up. Just starting to grow from the base of its skull. Aren't you cute? Of course, the big difference between our antelope and the deer of other parts of the world is the fact that while his horns are growing, it's depositing solid bone as it continues to grow. So it's not like the hardened blood vessels of a deer or a deer's antlers. It's solid bone that has to grow with a keratin sheath around it like a fingernail. And Jen, you were wondering about how, because it's difficult to get a sense of scale, how big that baby steenbok is. I'm just trying to think of a good comparison, Jen. Trying to think breeds of dog. Come on, little one, I need you to come out a little bit so I can see exactly how big you are. He would only come up to about my knee. To give you an idea height-wise, I'm 5'7", and he'd probably be about knee height on me. But I'm trying to think of a breed of dog. I thought about a Staffy, a Staffordshire Terrier, but I actually think he's shorter than especially for those of you in America, because your American Staffordshire Terriers are actually much taller than the British Staffordshire Terriers. So he's a bit smaller. He's a bit smaller and definitely a lot lighter than an American Staffy. Almost, actually, the size of one of those sort of long-legged, wire-haired fox terriers. I think I need to go and research my breeds of dogs so that I can provide them as useful comparisons. Suffice to say, he's very small. He's probably a good couple of months old, maybe 4 or 5, and will be independent of Mom. Well, is already completely weaned and will be independent from Mom in the next few months. You gonna go have a drink, girl? Isn't she beautiful in this morning light? Always constantly alert, especially in these more open areas where they feel slightly more vulnerable. As an animal that is basically adapted for dense vegetation or being secretive, the steenbok feel a bit more uncomfortable and more exposed here. That being said, it would be very difficult for a predator to sneak up on them at this point in winter around this waterhole. It's more exiting this area or entering this area that they would have to be particularly careful. But once they're here, I can't imagine that anything would get past their incredibly sensitive senses. I mean, I'm looking around and there's absolutely no cover for anything to hide behind. That being said, At this time of year, the water holes are where the poor animals have to go. They're forced in to areas like this, which means for the predators, they very often just have to stick around and wait for their food to come to them. Making her way back towards her son, see what he's up to. Okay. I think let us carry on, head towards the open area before those cheetah have a chance to disappear south into Mala Mala. While we do, let's go back to a different type of spotted cat.
Not much has changed here, apart from Mvula rolling over. Oh, it looks like he might roll over again, except the light has got fantastic on him. He is stretching and looking a little restless, so I'm hoping he possibly decides to climb the tree shortly. Or he could just be trying to move because of that large belly of his. Now, if he does climb the tree, we're not going to be able to get our camera up there, so there's not a great sighting of young Sindile. His head is not up. He's lying absolutely flat in the river system. So I'm going to just move a little bit forward, so if he does climb the tree... Oh, and he sat up. Are you going to climb the tree, or your belly just getting a little bit uncomfortable? Oh, and now he sat up. Sindile just yawned, but he went back to sleep. There we go. You can see he's walking quite stiff. And you can see his back hips are starting to show a little bit, and that's a very, very stiff. He might just be looking for a new place to sleep. Come on, go climb the tree. I'm trying to see these big scratch marks that Herbert said he saw. Now you can definitely see he's walking quite stiff. I mean, that's expected if you have a dust up with a nice male leopard in his prime. Oh, he does look a bit sore. Oh, Sindile's running up the tree. Quickly in front of us. As soon as he saw Mvula heading for the tree, up he went. Now there's growling and snarling. Fortunately, the sun's right behind. So as Mvula moved, Sindile just shot up the tree like a rocket. I'm going to try and move to get a slightly better light. Reposition now. So the light's quite difficult on... Oh, he's going up higher, right above the kill. And we can't see anything because of the sun. Just hold on. Oh, how's that? That's fine. We'll try and move again just now, but just so we can see what's going on. Still growling. Oh, this could be good. He might try to push Sindile out of the tree. Here we go. He's going to go up the tree. This is good. Oh, look at that! Oh, Sindile's down! Oh, incredible! The old man's got a bit of fight in him yet. Wow! Sindile, I pulled my earpiece out in all that excitement. Wow, wasn't that amazing? How was that sound? So I said, at most times, leopards will try avoid confrontation, but sometimes you just can't. And I must admit, I'm quite impressed with the gall of young Sindile. Mvula's trying to feed. I'm just going to try find a better spot. Now, a huge welcome to a brand new viewer, Crafting Princess, who's wondering is this really a live stream? Well, yes it is. You just saw two male lions fight in the top of the tree live. Male leopards, sorry. And Crafting Princess's next question is, what's my favorite, a lion or a leopard? Well, between the big cats, I don't really have a favorite. I love them both. But my favorite animal out here is the African wild dog. Oh, there you see, look, there's Sindile on the other side, looking a little bit sheepish. So it's just gonna, there we go. You got him there? Just to the right, yeah, there he is. I wonder, and you can actually hear Mvula chewing above us. Do you have a good view of Mvula as well? Or do I need to move a little bit further to the north? We're just going to see. Okay, we're just trying to reposition now with the camera to see if we can see the leopard feeding in the tree. Or do I need to go a little bit further? No, we're good. There he is. Now, it's really important when it comes to these sightings to have patience. I mean, we've sat here for an hour and about an hour and 10 minutes with absolutely nothing happening, and then all of a sudden, in a few split seconds, pandemonium can break loose. I wonder how many times this has happened overnight and yesterday when no one was here. So, Crafting Princess, you chose a wonderful day to start watching Safari Live. And of course, we see incredible stuff constantly, but it's very seldom that we see stuff exactly like that. And we spend 6 hours a day, every day out here on safari. So if you've just found us, in the mornings at the moment, it's from 6:30 a.m. Central African Time to 9:30 a.m. Central African Time. And in the evenings, 3 p.m. Central African Time to 6 p.m. Central African Time. Sorry, I just need to be on the Game Drive radio. Standing by. Firm text, Mvula just chayed them on Pimpan. He's still here, just on the other side of the Shkola. I've lost sight of young Sindile. Do you see him? He could have moved back down into the river. And look at that. Let's focus on Mr. Mvula. He was devouring that male impala. Now, earlier we were chatting about why the risk of a fight when both of these are non-territorial males, and it's fascinating, they're both at different spectrums. Young Sindile is setting out on his own. He's got about 3 years, or so before he's big enough to challenge for his own territory. So till then he's going to be nomadic, moving around trying to avoid big males. And Mvula is at the opposite end. He's lost his territory to Tingana and to Djuma, and he's a nomadic male for a different reason. It's because he's at the end of his life, and that's probably why there has been the tolerance there is. But Mvula has not been looking well recently. He hasn't been feeding, and I'm pretty certain he stole this kill from Sindile, and to get that protein, that meat, it was worth his while fighting that young male atop this Timbreti. Now the one thing that noise might bring in is hyenas, and that's why the kill's safely up in the tree. Yeah, those crunches. I'm just going to keep quiet for a second. Oh yeah, Gert's just asked me to move slightly so we can try move that branch out of the way. So I'm going to do that quickly. There. Actually, the thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try to go over that bush there. It should be better. How's that? Let's have a look. So I'm just going to wait for the head to zoom in so I can have a look. Okay, there we go. Okay, I'm just trying to have a quick look if I can see Sindile. I can't. I don't know if he's dropped back into the drainage or after that beating he's decided it's time to relinquish what's left of this impala. I've got a feeling he's quite a precocious youngster that maybe he hasn't quite given up yet and he's still hanging about somewhere. And another question from Crafting Princess, our latest Safari Live viewer, hopefully to become fan, would like to know, why do we name the leopards? It's more for our joy, and a lot of it's to do with identification. There are some ongoing research projects and on territories and dispersal patterns of male and female leopards. And it just makes us easier to keep track of which leopards are around. Now, I've been at Safari Live for about I think it's a year and 6 months now, more or less, since February last year. And in that time, I've personally seen 20 different individual leopards. And it's always nice to understand the dynamics, and it's much easier if you can identify the different individuals. And as I said, this is incredibly interesting behavior with this young male and a male that he's probably not related to. And this fascinating sort of standoff that's been going on. And now the carcass is becoming a little bit less, or it's becoming nearly finished, that there will be more aggression over that last remaining bit of meat. The sun is warming up, so sorry if you hear a zip. It's just me trying to cool down after all this excitement. Look at that. He's really getting stuck into that impala. But can you see Sindile from your perch behind me? No. Me neither. Now, as I said, he's quite a precocious youngster. He might still be close by. Okay, so while Mvula is crushing through some of those smaller bones in the impala's forequarters, we've got an action replay of that fight that just happened. So let's go have a look at it. How incredible was that? And as I keep saying, patience is the most important weapon in your arsenal for sightings. And sometimes you have to sit with flat cats for a very long time to see these incredible interactions. And as I said, we sat for an hour and 10 minutes with barely a movement from either leopard. And then in a split second, it all changed. I'm still looking around, trying to make sure where young Sindile is. So from a leap of leopards to a dazzle of zebras.
A dazzle of zebra and one wildebeest. One slightly confused normal Norman at Cheetah Plains Pan, and what an extraordinary morning this has turned out to be. Now, not quite the conflict that you've just seen on your screen, but the zebra are also a little bit tetchy at the moment. There's two little ones, very fluffy foals, and they've been having a couple of arguments over access to the water, some nips and bites, and the odd yip. Zebra can be incredibly vocal and also incredibly aggressive creatures when they want to be. And with such a huge herd, you are bound to find that there is a little bit of conflict. Probably got about 13 or 14 zebra here, plus normal Norman, who looks a little bit confused to find himself in this situation. We see this herd relatively regularly. There's a group of stallions, a bachelor herd, as well as the harem of the male zebra. Just bear with me one moment. I'm just going to say good morning to one of the other vehicles. Morning, guys. Good, thanks. How are you?
Good.
Those skunk, did they cross south?
They crossed south. When we get there, they were already there on that Clarence Dam. Straight south.
Straight, were they still moving?
They're still moving south.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
There is a Sambinyari coming from there. I'm sure maybe 10, 15 they'll be here.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Perfect.
See them there?
On their way to us.
Yeah, they're coming this way.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, cheers, guys.
That's the Birmingham daughter, they're still on and off.
There's at least 2 on Djuma. And then I think probably a couple around. They've been spending a lot of time going up to Manuleti. Yeah. I think they're fighting somebody there.
Okay.
Yeah. And then Nkuma's also always around Djuma, Torchwood. But yeah, we'll try send them south to you guys sometime.
Even when we can see them from here to the zebra's fine, as long as we see that is a...
I'll put in a good word.
Thank you.
Cheers, guys. Alrighty, so an update on our cheetah. They have gone into Mala Mala, unfortunately. However, apparently there's a huge breeding herd of buffalo on their way to come and have a drink. We just missed those, well, we didn't just miss those cheetah. They had crossed, by the time we got the report of the tracks, they were already in Mala Mala. And apparently they've gone all the way onto the other side of the dam wall and are continuing south. Next time, guys, we'll have to just keep trying because they've got to come back north at some point. But they keep managing to dodge us somehow. Well, our zebras seem to have calmed down. They've split off into the harem and then the bachelor herd. The harem, or the breeding herd there next to Norman, the normal gnu, with their little foals. Oh, a couple of phlegm and grimaces happening as well. Perhaps one of the females is coming to estrus. That might explain the continued presence of the bachelor group. And they... what are they thinking about? Are we going to go back for another drink? Are you happy here? Nice size comparison between the wildebeest and the zebra. Get an idea of just how tall and stocky zebra actually are, because a wildebeest is not a small animal either. And very restless. It's also very common to see wildebeest with zebra. It's a safety and numbers deal, particularly for the male wildebeest. They're often on their own. What's happening here, guys? Wouldn't call that affectionate. Just a little bit of disagreement happening. There's quite a few young stallions in that harem as well. You can tell when you look beneath the swishing tails, if the black stripe between the cheeks of the bottom is a thin stripe, it is a male. If it is a fatter black stripe, then it is a female. You can also watch and judge from their behavior. Oh, somebody's exhausted. Time to lie down and have a little bit of a rest. And Cheetah Plains always provides incredibly interesting sightings in these open areas. Of course, with absolute pleasure, Shamsun, I would love to explain the zebra hierarchy to you. Right, so we've got our harem system. What that means for zebra is one male collects a group of females together. And Shamsun, I'm going to continue this in a moment. But I'm going to try and reposition to get a slightly different view of these zebras so that we're not quite trying to work it out according to the sun. So Shamsun, the male of a zebra herd, collects his mares or his females. Is this going to make it worse, Chandra? Sort of. Yeah, let's try getting ourselves a little bit closer because they are being very active at the moment. A male, when he is ready to reproduce, but also when he's big enough and strong enough to compete with other males, he fights another stallion, and if he wins, then that stallion will either provide him with one of his daughters, or if he doesn't have any daughters, with his least favorite female. And she will be his first addition, and she will be the highest ranking female as he continues to collect mares to add to his group. So the female zebra actually do have a hierarchy. The female that's been with the stallion for longest, his favorite, will be the one that walks in front, and the rest of them will fall behind her in a very, very strict order that is maintained without mercy. So if a female accidentally gets in front of a zebra that she doesn't belong in front of, there'll be some really serious kicks and nips before she is sent to the back of her queue. And in fact, when a zebra stallion establishes his harem, when he has a big group of females and he collects a new one, there's lots of niggling going on here. When he collects a new female, that poor female actually has a really rough time of things because the stallion herds her towards his herd, keeps her with the group, but the other females don't accept her straight away. And they will very often essentially bully her, push her to the outskirts, bite her, kick her whenever the opportunity presents. And it takes several weeks before she becomes an accepted part of the group. The stallion will walk behind in a line like this when they walk through thick vegetation so that he can protect them from the rear, whilst the most experienced mare who walks in front, she'll check ahead for any kind of danger. And then you've got the bachelor herds that form their own hierarchy, just in terms of practicing their fighting skills on each other before they are ready to go and compete for their own access to females. Now our stripy horses are moving off into some dense vegetation while we wait for the huge herd of buffalo to make their way towards the water. Let's go back to some spotted cats.
Well, we still can't find Sindile, but Mvula is still in the tree feeding, and the go-away birds, I think, have spotted him, because they're just saying, oh. Now, and if we have a look over there, that go-away bird is looking straight into the river system, but Mvula, he keeps checking the opposite bank. So I'm not 100% sure where the other leopard is, but I'm going to try and see if we can move again. He's just moved the carcass into a slightly more difficult spot as we went live, of course. And I'm just going to go a little bit forward. How's that? I think that's as good as we're going to get. You can hear him. You can see he's using the premolars, and they're basically like a really powerful pair of side cutters to cut through the skin of that impala. Now, the legs look like they might fall. Now, I wonder if they do fall, will Sindile take the scavenging option and rush in and grab that meat? And will Mvula chase him? So many questions. And we're just going to have to sit tight to find out. Now, James Richard says, you've got to love the reaction speeds of the big cats. Stiff and sore 1 second, then up the tree and teaching the little Sindile some manners the next second later. It is incredible. Oh, look at that. He's just moving the carcass a bit to get into a better feeding point. And, of course, there's a dead branch in our way. And I don't think, with all the maneuvering in the world, we're going to get past that one. He might move it again now. I wish I knew where Sindile was. Jason is just referring back to that fight we saw, and he says, that was amazing. How they're able to do that in a tree without falling to the ground is incredible. And Jason, I agree with you wholeheartedly. And I have seen leopards fall out of trees while fighting before, and even then, quite often when they do fall, they still land on their feet. It's very unusual that they don't. But they are incredibly agile animals. Oh, look at that. Now, I took my eyes off Sindile for a second, and he disappeared. I'm still just trying to figure out. I think he might have gone back into the river system. There's always a possibility he has moved off after that beating, deciding that what's left there is not worth fighting for, and maybe it's going to be easier to go catch his own kill. Sorry, I should be on the game drive radio for a second. Take some Mvula's up in the shasha now. All that back quarter of the impala is hanging quite precariously. It's just held on by a little bit of skin at the moment. Well, a reasonably thick piece of skin, I think. You can hear the go-away bird just above him. Such a strange noise. Oh, off goes the go-away bird. Oh, where is young Sindile? Oh, will that piece of skin be the one that sends the back legs plummeting? I'm really fascinated. If Sindile is close by, if a big piece of meat like that falls, is he going to run away with it? There we go, using those powerful premolars and side cutters again. So, if anyone's wondering what that clickety-click is, it is just me taking a few pictures. We can't really pass up on an opportunity like this. Now, Anna Marie says they almost sound like scissors cutting into the impala. That's exactly what they are, a very big and strong pair of scissors. As I say, akin to side cutters, for those of you who know your tools rather than scissors. I wish I could see just a little bit further into the ditch there. Now, as I was saying, it was very precocious of Sindile to think that he could outmuscle old Mvula. Mvula's fought many a territorial battle in his life, so a little bit more experience, but even in that beating, Sindile is going to gain experience, and which could become very useful for him in later life. Well, there goes a leg. Now, no movement from beneath. Has Sindile decided to abandon what's left of this carcass after that beating?